Good morning and welcome. Good morning to you all and welcome to this event. As you all know, Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries in terms of climate change. And economic sustainability is contingent upon how we manage the climate change in the years to come. We face climate change in many dimensions, including the sea level rise, including salinity increase, which is already being reflected, and the climate refugee problem that we are already facing. It's not that it's going to happen. It will intensify certainly, but it's going to happen. Now, against that background, I think that there's a serious discussion, debate we need to have is how to make our economic growth more sustainable, more green, and how we can make our country and city livable. We all know that in terms of these indicators, Bangladesh is the number one, is the worst country in terms of environmental things, and Dhaka city is number 2 in the world. So that is from the bottom of the ranking. And so there's not much further we can go down. Certainly, there's a huge potential to go up, and we have to work on it. So growth, yes, growth is very important. Every country in the world we have seen has gone through a path where they achieved high growth, economic prosperity, but at the same time, serious degradation of the environment. It's nothing new in the case of Bangladesh. It has happened in USA. We have heard those stories of Love Canal in New York City, New York State. We have seen of acid rain in Canada coming from America with the clouds being loaded with lead and acid. Dead canals in all across Canada. We have seen the destructions done in China as well. So economic development, if not managed properly, can become a source of destruction of nature, and there is a serious concern about sustainability. The question that comes that should we not do it, prevent it before it's too late, before it becomes too costly, and should we not be aware of what is happening to our natural capital in the process? Are we losing more than we are gaining, or we're managing it better? So this issue is the topic for discussion today. Using natural capital accounting, formulating development policy. So that's an important issue. We always focus on headline item, GDP growth. We always focus on per capita income. Yes, but at what cost? And at what cost to our natural capital? At what cost to our health, life expectation, etc., and the quality of living in general? So we will like to hear from a panel of distinguished panelists here. And let me first welcome our chief guest, Dr. Wahiduddin Mahmood. Yes, okay. And our distinguished panelist. And I will hand it over to Dr. Zaidi Sattar for making the welcome remarks in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hassan Mansoor, for these nice, for explaining the context of our presentation today. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to one of the most distinguished economists in the country. He's committed his entire professional life and economy and its development, I would say. Most important, what is relevant for today's discussion is that Professor Wahiduddin Mahmood has chaired the the technical committee on national accounts for, I think, what, almost 30 years now. Even I remember, I recall, back in the early 1990s, I was a member of this task force that was created for some re-estimation of national accounts, which the committee that he chaired. And I recall that, we had very interesting exchanges, and there was a report that came out which revised national accounts.
Yes, may I just interrupt? You know that there is national income rebasing and re-estimation. We do it every 10 years, like most other countries. We did it in 2000, which was published in 2001. Rebasing and shifting the entire base is changed, and the estimation is also changed. So the entire series is changed. It was backward and forward. Then we did it again in 2010, 11, and we have done it again now. The first one was 95 base, second one was 2005 base, this one is 2015 base. Which one is current?
Right.
It just have been revised. The report is not yet published, but the official estimates are already published on the basis of the new series. So what Jaideep was referring to is that I chaired the committees, advisory committees for all three. So it dates back to 2000.
Yeah, 2000.
But I am in no way connected with the annual estimation of national income estimates.
Thank you for the clarification. Yes. So
Methodology is set by those landmarks.
I understand, the BBS follows the UN system of national accounts, and therefore they have this procedure, but he is on an advisory committee. Okay. So along with the subject matter of today's presentation, there is the green growth pathway. Along with that is the issue of national capital accounting. Now, ever since, the system of national accounts, or the concoction of gross domestic product was invented back, actually it was launched at the Bretton Woods conference. It was Simon Kuznets, the American economist, who really made the first formulation of gross domestic product, gross national product. And the Bretton Woods conference sort of validated that system for global estimation, where you can make cross-country comparisons and so on. But ever since this concoction was launched, there were critiques who said, "Oh, this is either
the concoction was more systematized, and the first actual comprehensive national accounting was done under the tutelage of Keynes by Richard Stone and Mead at Cambridge. That was the first production of comprehensive national income accounts.
Thank you for the details. Thank you very much. Thank you for the details. I'm sure economists and
the younger economists would
love to hear that. Yeah. So basically, the point is that the GDP estimates did not include any idea of well-being, and critics like Professor Nordhaus of Yale and others, they came up, and most recently the French president set up a commission which included Amartya Sen and Joseph Stiglitz, the top economists of the world, to actually see if this GDP could be reconstructed to give us a good sense of well-being rather than just the output of goods and services. And now I think GDP is still remaining as it is, but now that climate change and green growth issues have become prominent, and particularly for countries like Bangladesh, which is very vulnerable to climate change, the issue of valuing nature and integrating it with the national accounting system has earned credibility, and many countries, as you know, have already adopted, or at least working on developing the system of accounting that reflects the value of national capital. And of course, the damages that take place through the growth process. So these have to be reflected. But of course, the integration of these two with the integration of this natural capital accounting with the existing system of national accounting is going to take a bit of time. But right now, at least the system has to be developed. And in Bangladesh, I think the government has already agreed to the idea of developing the system. Capacities have to be built. And I think we're looking forward to support from multilateral agencies to develop this system of the new system of accounting. With that, with these words, I really welcome Professor Wahiduddin Mahmood. This is a really technical discussion, and I think we just have the right person to oversee the direction of this particular discussion. There are representatives from the Korean, this is Korean Environment Institute, who will be making a main presentation today. We have representatives from Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, the project director, Mr. Rafiqul Islam. Then we have Mr. Zahir Iqbal, Head of Resources Information Management System, Unit of Bangladesh Forest Department. I think they are relevant people for this particular sort of accounting idea. So I'm going to let Dr. Hassan Mansoor actually take over and do the moderating. Over to Dr. Mansoor.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sattar. Let me now request Ms. Unju, Senior Environment Specialist, World Bank, to set the stage, basically. She has been working on green growth strategy for Bangladesh for the last at least close to a year now. Huh? And very, very compassionate about it. Feels very strongly, and she has a lot of experience from Korean government initiatives and also international experience working with the World Bank Group and other institutions. So she will basically describe the pathways for Bangladesh in the opening bit of this session. Munju.
Thank you so much, sir. I don't know if I'm going to set the pathway for Bangladesh, but I'm going to try to say where we're going to try to support. Because we're running late and things are moving a little less on time, I'm going to try to spare, because we've got amazing speakers today who are technically in the right fields, as Dr. Sattar said. So I'm just going to set the context and why we're doing this and how this is going to apply and be utilized. So today's consultation is incredibly valuable to all of us because we need to make sure we're on the right path. So why are we doing this? Bangladesh is a very interesting country of immense capability and progress and strength. And in fact, one of the things I'd love to see is that Bangladesh defy Kuznets curve. It would be nice to see that, right? Because you've defied every other rule in the book already. So how can we make that happen? When we look at natural capital, and when we look at growth and green growth, Bangladesh is very special because more than 70% of your country is nature. And climate change affects nature the most, in which we live on nature. We have land limitations as well. And when we look at the science of climate, when we look at the science of the ecosystem services that is providing a livelihood for vast majority of this country, we do need to take into consideration the asset. The natural capital, both marine and terrestrial and wetlands, are our assets. If we do not account for them now, we will miss a huge opportunity to do better land use policy. We will not be able to urbanize in the way we would like to. We will also not be able to compensate the people of Bangladesh today and in the future and take away their future earnings and their future livelihoods. And that is why it's so important, because of climate change and the effect on ecosystem services, that when we talk about nature-based solutions, we move beyond disaster relief. We need to think about this as a growth trajectory and an opportunity. So the operation of this work on green growth, and as Dr. Mansour has said, I've been working with the bank for the past 9 years, almost 10. And in my previous role, I was a technical on green growth, as well as a fund manager. So I've worked with about 80 to 90 countries around the world as they all took a customized approach on their green growth path. And Bangladesh already has set a green growth path in your national plans, both the 2041 and your 8th five-year plan. The question is how we do the nuts and bolts of it. I'm very grateful today that this is a very technical discussion, because we're not going to be talking about what we all agreed on. We all agree that this is very valuable. We all agree that climate affects. We all agree that the national plan, the 8th five-year plan, is right on target. But then how do we achieve it? How do we then implement? So today, one of the things that we don't want to draw, that I know we have many speakers, but we have many speakers that come from different institutions and governance. So as we go through discussions, in addition to technical, I would love to hear from all of you the institutional authority and governance that could be added on as we make recommendations for natural capital, not just the act of accounting, but the enforcement and the cross ministerial engagement. I understand that the Statistical Act of 2013 will be amended. So this is a very valuable opportunity to strengthen the role of national accounting, the methodologies, the support and technical engagement we need to support the line ministries with the right resources. So I'm going to stop there because the presentations ahead do a really good job. So I'm going to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Unju. And let me now request Mimako Kabayashi. She's the Senior Environmental Economist, World Bank. The topic is Introduction to Global Program on Sustainability, How and Why. Ms. Mimako.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present an introduction to our program GPS. My name is Mimi Kobayashi. I'm a senior environmental economist at the World Bank, and I'm also supporting the management of this GPS. So what is GPS? Okay, so the GPS Global Program on Sustainability, we promote the use of high quality data and analysis on natural capital, ecosystem services, and sustainability to better inform decisions made by governments, the private sector, and financial institutions. You might have heard the program WAVES, Wealth Accounting Program, and that is also a World Bank-led partnership, but it is now under this umbrella initiative of the GPS Global Program for Sustainability. So at the GPS, we have 3 pillars. The first pillar is about global information. We generate data and provide analytical work at the global scale. You might have heard of a publication called Changing Wealth of Nations, and we have other publications in this under this pillar. And pillar 3 is about incentives. It's actually financing. So we try to integrate sustainability in the functioning of financial markets. And pillar 2 in the middle, this is what is relevant in this context, today's workshop's context, which is country implementation. This is actually the continuation of the WAVES program under the GPS pillar 2. So under this pillar, we build countries' capacity to produce and use natural capital accounting for policy planning and monitoring and evaluation. So this is the overview of our GPS program. Okay, so the context of this program is that the number of countries that are undertaking natural capital accounting or adopting CA system of environmental economic accounting, that is increasing. This is a map and the data from UN Statistical Division's website. The number of countries are increasing. However, the challenges still remain, that the adoption of ecosystem accounting is, and then also use of accounts for policy use, these are lagged behind. So, the objective of our program at the World Bank, WAVES and GPS, it is to fill the gap and address these challenges through our engagement. So that is the context of our program. Okay, so the WAVES, original WAVES countries are 8 countries, and we have supported them developing a natural capital account. And together they have developed over 30 accounts: Colombia, Rwanda, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Philippines, Botswana, Indonesia, and also Madagascar also participated in the first round of WAVES activities. And together they, the WAVES informed over 50 policy decisions regarding policy planning, policy implementation, policy monitoring, review, and reform. So these accounts have been used in all stages of policy cycles, starting from identifying issues and problems of environmental issues, followed by policy response, then policy implementation and monitoring of policy implementation and review of the monitored results, and then back into the cycle of new round of problem identification. So the accounts have been used in these policy cycles. Okay, so following the original 8 countries from the WAVES, many more countries have joined the program and working on building natural capital accounts and valuing ecosystem services. So WAVES Plus is a continuation of WAVES, and new countries actually entered and completed all these activities. And GPS are now starting new activities. So we actually have 2 instruments, 2 types of grants we give out to support countries. So CIC is a bigger grant, core implementing countries. CICs are bigger grants, and TTA, targeted technical assistance, are smaller grants. But these countries are all implementing natural capital accounts or ecosystem services valuation. So just to give a few examples of what countries have done. So first example is Botswana's water accounts. So by doing this, by building these accounts, the country has been able to find out that the economic contribution from use of water show that the service sector uses the least water and contribute most to GDP and employment. By contrast, the agricultural sector is the highest water user, but contributes least to GDP and formal employment. A similar, I will skip this one. Similar analysis is done for Costa Rica. Costa Rica, they developed forest accounts, and they also looked at the forest. And forest contributes 2% to Costa Rica's GDP when returns from timber other forest products are included, as opposed to 0.2% when only timber sales are calculated, included in the analysis. There are Uganda results. This is a progression of the cycle, right? So from the accounts, they also did forest accounts, and what they did was from the data, from the accounts that they developed, they identified that the loss of forests is different across different types of forests. And basically they found that the people are cutting down the trees for fuel wood, for fuel. So then they went ahead and did a scenario analysis to project the demand for fuel wood over decades. And then based on that, they identified policy interventions, value chain, and regulatory framework, and other kind of interventions. And that all led to informing Burbank project, and also the third national development plan. Okay, all these examples of how accounts have been developed and used. So Rwanda land accounts, they changed the sorry, I can't see. They changed the land system, information system, and also influenced the national land use development master plan. Sorry, how come that's not going? Okay, there are Indonesia examples. I'm not going through all of them in the interest of time. Guatemala. But what I wanted to highlight is this also. So the GPS also really emphasizes the importance of institutionalizing accounts. So for example, in the Philippines, institutes and ministries are involved in sharing of data and calculating fisheries accounts. That's what they developed in the Philippines, fisheries accounts. In Costa Rica, the process is formalized, and the National Council of Environmental Accounts are created. And also even the central bank, a four-member environmental statistical unit is set up in central bank. So all this is really important, that they not just to develop accounts, right? It has to be used in policy, and it has to be institutionalized. So we really emphasize the importance of institutions. I believe there will be some speakers talking about this point, so I'm really looking forward to it. So anyway, so just quickly, there are 4 more CICs completed under WAVES Plus, 9 more tasks completed under, again, WAVES Plus, and we are many more countries are participating and developing the work. So if you are interested, please look at the website and
national
follow up on the topic, please. Thank you.
as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mimi, for your sharing the international experience with global practices in various forms, particularly with land administration, information system, with forest account, and so on. So that's very useful for us. Let's now move on to our next speaker, So Yoon An, Senior Natural Resource Economist, South Korean Environment Institute, KEI. The topic is Integrated Assessment Framework and Applications of Korea's Environmental Valuation Information System. Shan.
Hello.
Yes, Mizan, please. go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can see you and hear you.
We cannot see your.
Thank you very.
No, but we cannot see your screen.
Okay, it's not highlighted, but it's there.
Oh, it is?
It is there. Mizan, can we make it yeah, okay.
Do you
Yeah, we
see it
can-
now?
Yes, absolutely.
No, no.
See the
Oh,
screen?
not the presentation, no,
We need to see, we don't
We
see
can see
your
you.
screen.
but not your shared screen.
We can see you. It's gotta be on your side. Can you just check your sharing? Dr. An, it worked before.
Yeah.
Why don't we share it on our side then? GA can pull it up right now. So just give us about 10 seconds and she'll pull that up. We did a test, I just want to tell you, before we started.
It happens.
We did do a test. Yes. Let's.
Yeah, there we are.
They wanted to make it a little bigger. Oh, the people online can see it better than we can, I see, because you have a printout, okay, good.
Yep.
You should have a printout. Just as. Should we go ahead?
Okay.
All right.
Do you see now then?
Yeah,
We can.
yeah, you just tell us to move and we'll move.
Okay. Sorry about that. My name is Soo-eun An, working with Korea Environment Institute. I'm very happy to have an opportunity to present EVIS, which is the Environmental Valuation Information System, has been developed by KEI over 10 years now. Next slide, please. And these are the main subject I am going to talk about today. I will briefly mention the background of EVIS, and then I will move to two main components of EVIS. First one is Environmental Valuation DB, and the other is Integrated Assessments Toolkit. And lastly, I will show some examples of application of EVIS in terms of decision making. Next, please. The development of EVIS is based on the two research projects. First one is this 3-year project conducted from 2009 to 2011. The objective is to develop online database for environmental valuation studies conducted in Korea and to assist policy assessment by providing relevant information on environmental valuation. And then let's move to the next one. Okay, the other is 8-year project started from 2016, which is actually will be ended next year. And the objective of this project is to develop an integrated assessment framework by linking the unit values of environmental goods and services to magnitude of physical impacts quantified based on the impact pathway analysis. So there are 4 more sort of objective. One is improve and update the unit values of environmental goods and services contained in valuation DB. And if we don't have enough observation or information about the particular items, we conducted original studies to estimate the benefits or cost of the items. And we do some quantification of a physical impact. And then lastly, we designed to integrate framework for policy assessment. So basically, in summary, this project is the extension of a previous research project. Next one, please. So this is the main screen of EVs. EVs has been developed for domestic use. So unfortunately, English version is not available at this point. So I will show some screenshots with English commentary in the box from now on. Next one, please. Let me start with the valuation DB. This one is the online database on valuation studies conducted in Korea. The first version is launched in 2011, which provide meta information on the main result from each valuation study, including the full reference, valuation subject in detail, method used, value estimates, and published year, etc. And DB was updated and reopened in 2018. And DB classification by this classification is such as we have two main categories. One is ecosystem and ecosystem service, and the other one is human health endpoint. So for the ecosystem and ecosystem services, we mostly based on MA on EPES classification. So the DB has 8 ecosystem types at 19 ecosystem service categories. And human health endpoints, we are focusing on mortality and morbidity by medium, such as air pollution or water and soil contamination, etc. Next one, please. So let's talk about the environmental valuation DB on the ecosystem and ecosystem service. The valuation DB contains 1,438 estimates from 315 studies for ecosystem and ecosystem service. And so 315 Korean valuation studies are loaded in DB, which is actually 65%. And as of February 23rd this year. And next, please. So these are this is the 2x2 table, which shows the number of studies by ecosystem and ecosystem service. As I mentioned earlier, the DB include 8 ecosystem types and 19 ecosystem service items. So as ecosystem type, we have forest, grassland, wetlands, urban ecosystem, cultivated area, inland water, inland freshwater, marine ecosystem, coastal ecosystem. And in that table, you can see the 19 sub ecosystem service under 4 main categories, such as provisioning, regulating, supporting, and cultural. Next, please. And these are the same 2x2 table, but the numbers are the estimates, not studies. And also you can see the explanation for each item under the table. So you can look at, you can refer to the ecosystem service. Next one, please. Next one is the integrated assessment toolkit. So toolkits is supposed to support policy and project assessment. How? By linking physical measurement and unit values based on the impact pathway analysis. Basically, we are adding toolkits to EBS 2.0. Toolkits are composed of 3 steps. First step is scoping in terms of stakeholders and the spatial impact boundaries and temporal impact boundaries, etc. The second step is the physical measurement of expected environmental impact. And third one is the third step is valuation of environmental service identified. Okay. And the development history of a toolkit in EVs. The first one we developed toolkit is the valuation of carbon stock and flow by ecosystem type, which is established in 2019. And we have a toolkit for to compute health damage cost of air pollution and health damage cost of mercury exposure. And we are going to build one more toolkit for valuation of water provisioning service by water basins in Korea. And the other one we are working on is the evaluation toolkit for regulating water quality by water basin. So this is going to be this year and next year. And next slide, please. So I'm going to explain sort of conceptual framework to develop this toolkit first. This one shows the impact pathway from human activities to receptors or endpoint. So as you can see, human activities such as energy use, economic activity, and develop project is going to emit all the emissions and also to change land use patterns. And they are going to somehow impact on environmental quality through abiotic and biotic system. And the impacts is going to go to final receptors. I call sometimes endpoints, which are human health and ecosystem service and benefits. Next one, please. So this one shows how physical measurement is linked to unit values to produce the total values or change in total values from endpoint perspectives. So if you see ecosystem and ecosystem service, the measurement of physical impact, you are most likely to estimate the physical impact in terms of a stock or flow. And then you are going to want to link appropriate prices, such as either could be market price or willingness to pay estimates or replacement or restoration cost on sometimes value transfer. So these are the how physical measurements is linked to the valuation. Next, please. Of course, we need to do some scientific case studies first, and also to collect valuation information required to develop the toolkit. This one shows the selected case studies conducted by KAI research team. So if you look at the ecosystem, we did some case studies on carbon stock and flow, water yield, retention capacity of nitrogen and P by ecosystem types, and also habitat quality mapping. And you can see the inbound evaluation DV is supporting to link physical measurement and unit values by providing proper unit values. So inbound evaluation DV is sort of supporting the whole process. Next slide, please. Okay, so next step is to visualize the integrated assessment process for each ecosystem service. I will show the example of evaluation of carbon stock and flow from now on. From left to the right of this table, you can see the integrated assessment process is starting with scoping and physical measurement of carbon stock and flow, and then valuation. And case study was conducted to collect the data to fill up this table. Next one, please. Next one, yeah. So this the screenshot for the carbon stock and flow valuation toolkit. So first step is scoping. So scoping determinants is the users can choose whether you wanted to do some stock estimation or flow estimation. Or users also can select the ecosystem types they wanted to look at, such as forest or wetlands, etc. And they can select the year they wanted to look at. And also they can select a spatial boundary, whether they wanted to do their their analysis based on administrative district or water basin. So this is the first step showing the scoping. The next one, please. So second step is the physical measurement. The important thing you have to decide is the selection of carbon conversion coefficient. So default is the government coefficient. Our research institute provide supported by government to produce the carbon conversion coefficient by ecosystem type. So that's the default. But if we wanted to do, if you have your own parameters, you can put your own parameters into the system and then calculate the numbers. And calculation based on invest and also land cover and land use GIS information. And next, please. Okay, the next one is the third step, which is the valuation. In this screen, in this step, you can select the carbon price. So we have 3 options basically. So you can choose Korean carbon market price or EU ETS price, or you can, if you have another estimate such as willingness to pay per se, then you could put your own prices to calculate the values. And also you can select the base year. So if you wanted to, so that means you can have information by nominal price in terms of nominal price, or you can, the system also convert your value into real terms. Next one, please. Okay, this is the final result. Looks like this, and it also provides nice chart and also the final result in terms of Excel file, so that you can download this final result and do some more analysis if you like. So that's the last final result screen. Next one, please. So let's move to the application of EBS in Korea. I think we are getting late, so I will go quickly. This one is the application of environmental valuation DB. First one is the meta regression analysis and benefit transfer. These are some examples of our KI team did for meta regression analysis and benefit transfer. And in these days, many users download our data and do their own meta regression analysis for their own use. So I will try to give some examples from different user purpose. The examples I show below are all either conducted by KEI team or participated by KEI team. This one is about the meta regression analysis and benefit transfer. So, and the next one, please. This one shows the effort to link EBS to main national assessment tools. This area is main focus of KEI team this and next year. SCEA, Strategic Environment Assessment, is under Ministry of Environment, and RIA, Regulatory Impact Analysis, is under Prime Minister's Office, and PFS, the Preliminary Feasibility Studies, under Ministry of Economy and Finance. So each assessment is bounded by the law, so which means they have to do it. But the information they require is a little bit different according to what kind of assessment you are doing. So left-hand side, you will see the hierarchy of decision making. So upper level, we have a policy and plan and project. So SCEA is more likely policy, and PFS is more like a project level. But if you look at the information terms, perspective of information, SEA is more likely to use key indicator type of information, but RIA and PFS is going to require more detailed information about their feasibility test. So in terms of SEA and RIA, EBs provide information on environmental benefit and cost in context of social benefit and cost, because they wanted to do some calculation about social benefit and cost. So environmental benefit and cost is part of it. And preliminary feasibility study is based on BC analysis. So we are providing information for BC analysis for the certain project. Next one, please. Next, yeah. So this is example of a policy assessment case conducted in 2020. This one is this one is the policy, one example of policy assessment, which is fine dust seasonal management. Is kind of hard to pronounce, but in electrical power generation sector, the background of this policy assessment is that because of PM 2.5. PM 2.5 concentration level of Korea is about 2 times higher than the WHO's guideline or the level of other major cities in developed country. So governments do some policy measurement such to reduce fine dust especially in the period of winter and summer. So which is from December to March, government try to put some restrictions on coal power generation. If you see, there is a scenario A and B. Scenario A is a shutdown of outdated old coal power plants, and scenario B is restrictions. Put some restrictions on upper limit of a coal power plant. So next, please. So scoping is the we are looking at the 3 air pollutants, which is NOx, SOx, and PM 2.5. And we are looking at the health endpoint, which is premature death from the all cause due to PM 2.5. So toolkit in EBS, we are so they calculate the health damage cost of air pollution. So the steps they go over is such as this. So emission part, and then dispersion, and those response function and valuation. So result, this is just a kind of example of the numbers. So from the policy assessment, they conclude that there are some reducement, the pollutants are reduced due to the policy, introducing the policy, and then there will be the health benefits, savings in health damage cost, so that they can look at the cost, the effectiveness of the policy. Next one, please. I'm getting done. So this is the design for payment for ecosystem service. If you are familiar with the PES, you probably know that PES can be designed in many different ways according to regional circumstances. This table shows the main elements of a PES design. EBS can provide important information for determining amount of payment, which is highlighted here. Which can be also very varied from real cost of a program implementation to WTP. Next one, please. So currently, Ministry of Environment takes PES as a very important policy tool and is planning to expand its application in Korea. So information from EBS has been used to determine amount of payment. So these are the pilot studies and Ministry of Environment has been done last couple of years. And then if you look at the PES guideline, they provide the guidelines for PES applications also. So Ministry of Environment increased PES budget by 42% from 2021 to 2022. So this policy tool is getting expanding. So we are closely working with the Ministry of Environment to find out proper payment. Next, please. This one is the last, but probably the most important one. Various ecosystem and ecosystem service assessment project has been conducted in Korea, but not comprehensive one yet. Because each assessment is conducted by different ministries and research institutes separately. For instance, Korea Environmental Service did the assessment only for forest, etc. So Ministry of Environment initiated a national project to 2024 to do the comprehensive assessment on the status of ecosystem and ecosystem services. So two main research institutes will be involved in this process. One is National Institute of Ecology. They are going to do some physical calculation on the measurement on the physical indicator of ecosystem service. And the KEI is going to support in terms of economic valuation. So personally, I am very excited about this project. Well, I think this ends my presentation, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anne, for very comprehensive. Now, issue is that how much you can do it in absorb, and then implement if you can at all eventually.
We can, we can.
There has to be a political will.
No, we gotta do it.
Now, let me request Mr. Enamul Haq, Professor, East West University. Dr. Enamul Haq.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can I present my screen settings? So let me share my presentation. I think you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Soyun, for presenting the Korean case. My job is basically to bring the issue to Bangladesh and see how we can go about it in a sense. I think Rafiqul Islam from the BS will speak more about it. But in terms of Bangladesh, the government of Bangladesh has created a project already to establish the national natural capital resource accounts. Instead of capital account, they say resource accounts in Bangladesh. In this assignment we did for also we were working on developing a methodology for integrating this national capital valuation. The biggest difficulty, as you have seen in most cases in national accounts, is products are priced and there are imputed prices that we do if it is not priced properly. In environmental issues, the values are not there. Many of the environmental services may not have any market value at all. And that's why the environmental valuation becomes a special case. But more than that, there are, in terms of the services, there are 4 different services that Soyun has mentioned about it. So what we did in our case, we thought that we'll get an expert opinion to find out the most important values, because there are about 80 to 90 values, services, ecosystem services that we can see out of nature that we directly or indirectly our economy uses these services. So the biggest challenge that we have is to find out which are the services that is very important and how we should process this. And that is my target in the next 10 minutes probably. So in this particular case, we were looking at the rivers, wetland and forest services, the 3 categories, and we wanted to find out what are the ecosystem services it provides to Bangladesh. Because when you want to do the integration with the national accounts, you have seen with the Soyun's presentation, first step is a measurement, finding out what the services are from. Second step is to find out how much it is flowing, providing the services. And third step is unit value. Only then we can integrate. So what we did, the strategy that we have mentioned, you must have a quantification, and this is where more science. And
Sir, Dr. Inam? Dr.
Yes.
Inam? Hello?
Unmute.
It is unmuted.
This one, yes.
Hello, Dr. Inam?
Yes,
Yes, we're having a little bit of connection issues. So I was wondering if you could turn off your video. Maybe that will help with the broadband. Sorry, we're
sure.
losing the voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. So that's, as I mentioned, that in order to process what Soyun has mentioned in case of Korea, the three steps that I can see is important for us. Number one is the quantification, which means what are the services, how much is the services is used in the economy. Second point is the value, unit value, what she mentioned, means what is the unit price of these services so that we can integrate with the national accounts. And the last is integrating them together. So in doing so, what we did we looked in the expert opinion and see what are the major services. As you have seen, there are 4 major categories of services. The first one is provisioning services. And then we looked into the river ecosystem in Bangladesh. We look at the floodplains, we look at the hill forest, we look at the coastal forest, we look at the salt forest, and we look into the Sundarban. Experts have categorized out of the 80 total different services. Part of them were about 25 or so were provisioning services. From river system and hill forest, interestingly, provide more provisioning services than others. Now, value is the different issue, but the services, the categories of services. So rivers provide water transportation, and we need to find the values. So now provision and values, many of them are part of the economic estimates. So probably unit values can be found or can be imputed with the market strategies. So yes, these are provisioning services are much easier to integrate. But the most important part is the measurement. If you look into the water transport, we need to find out the services that is used. According to if you look into the services, we have both formal and informal. Water transportation data that we exist today actually only looks into the formal services. Informal water transport services does not exist, and that particular data is required. Fisheries is important, data exists. Agriculture data exists. Water resources data exists only in the urban areas. In the rural areas, the services, the data does not exist. And Forest Department has actually very good quality data. So with the National Forest Inventory Survey, they have created a very good quality data right now that we can use in many other cases. So if you look into this, these are the institutions that need to be streamlined with the Bureau of Statistics in order to generate regular annual data at a regular interval using a specific measurement so that it can be integrated with the national accounts. So that is one issue that we, in order to proceed, not only that we need find out the values, but also need to streamline these different institutions linked to these services so that we can generate the data. The second one is the regulating service, the most difficult one. You have seen in Korean cases that took almost like 18 years to develop the values for each of these services. Many of these services are very difficult to trace, very difficult to bank. So it requires research to find out the services, flow of services. So if you look into this one, rivers provide a lot of regulating services. According, these are expert opinions. Floodplains also provide services. The hill forest also provides certain services. Salt forest provides certain services. So you can see that some of these services are very scientific and needs the specific institutions to measure. So if you look into the regulating service of the coastal forest of the Sundarban, so you need meteorological department to be aligned with the Bureau of Statistics to look into the flow of services. You need biodiversity conservation institutions like IUCN probably to be aligned and generate regular data, because otherwise you cannot integrate with the national accounts. Genetic resources, some of the scientific institutions, herbarium and many other institutions must be included. water regulating services, water development board, the meteorological department must be involved to develop the changes in the services that happening every year so that we can integrate it in the national accounts. So one issue that we all know, national accounts is a flow, value of flow, and we need to be careful on that. The flow changes must be taken into account along with the stock changes that is happening. Water cycle regulation, climate regulation, soil erosion, SRDI could be one institution which would be looking into the, similarly, water development board also look into the soil erosion along the river coast. So quite a lot of institutions must provide regular data. Bureau of Statistics has done a research work within their own project. And what they found out that some of the data are probably partially available, not regularly available. So what is important, if I have to integrate, we need the physical data first. And these are the physical data that will be required at the minimum. So remember the minimum, so minimum means we can look into these priorities. The way it is ordered from the top to bottom. Most important, the least important according to the expert opinion. These are the cultural services. Again, river system provides a lot of culture. This is where you can see river at the back, is one of the primary service provider to the economy that we often ignore. And you can see the rivers have certain cultural services that provided. Floodplain also provides certain services. Many of the services are not measured right now. So if we want to measure them, we need to integrate a lot of institutions together. Tourism Ministry should be integrated to come up with these tourism services. Bureau of Statistics also have the data, but it needs to be integrated with it. Religious institution, because there is a lot of spiritual values and cultural values attached to it. So institutions like local government, local archaeological departments, they have to provide certain data in order to look into this, including the research expenditure that we do. So these are some of the research related to the natural capital. And then lastly, the services that we have is the habitat services, which is part of the national accounts, NCA methodology, and the support and habitat services. These services are very difficult to trace. So these services, again, we need to be looking into. Then we can easily see why it took 10 years for 18 years, almost 16 years for Korea to come up with the full system. But it's the same process we need to go through. In other words, we need the fisheries, wildlife, SRDI, BBS also has it. Some of this information, I must say, that BBS do collect. The challenge is that those information that BBS collect is already there. But the scientific information for particularly on the habitat, on the nutrient cycle does not exist. So if you want to do this, we need to bring BBS need to align themselves with the specific institutions in order to say, here are the values that I want to monitor regularly, so that eventually once I see the quantity changes, I can value them and integrate with the national accounts. So I thought that institutional requirements are very important. Without those institutional requirements, BBS alone cannot do it, although BBS has strategies to deal with it. But my feeling is that we need to develop a structure on that. Now, this is the research that output, partial output that Center for Urban Studies and East West University has done. And I was part of it. And I have my colleagues, Dr. Tanvi, Dr. Diva, Asya, and Ishtiaq Bari, all of them part of it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Enamul Haq, and your colleagues who are not there for having a good start, actually, on this process. And you have been associated with BBS for quite some time, we know, and you can really help BBS down the line in this transition to this new form of national accounts.
Are we in a transition?
Eventual transition. Or expected transition, whichever way you can wish to qualify it.
Rafiq can tell.
Yes,
Yeah.
Rafiq will come. Just before that, before I call Rafiqul Islam, I will just request Ms. Suyunan to just elaborate a little bit more on this same topic.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. An. Dr. An, are you there?
Yes.
So you, oh, there we go.
This is Rafiq's.
Dr. An, are you going to be sharing your slide? Oh.
Yeah, I shared.
You shared, okay. Mr. Rafiq, we're gonna,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
We just need a few more minutes and we'll bring you right on for the transition you're leading. Dr. An, your presentation is not showing. Can you try sharing again? Or maybe I could. Chia, are you gonna do it? Oh, no, something's working.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, great. Please go ahead, Dr. An.
Okay, thank you. I will go really quickly.
Yes, please.
Okay, this is the evaluation of ES in southwest of Bangladesh. This is just a brief summary of what I have been done with the NCA team in Bangladesh. So I will show the pilot study area, and I'm going to talk about mostly on the ES classification for this pilot project. Okay, so this is the study area. You probably know better than I do here. So geography focus of the natural capital accounting study is the Southwest hydrological region. If you show the map of Bangladesh, comprising of the Ganges dependent area. And I will skip this one. So the conceptual framework is very similar to the one I presented just before, but one thing is different, which is the classification system. Okay. So this is the CICS 4.3. So you can see the main issue I would like to share is the ES classification adopted here. As you may know, CICS 5.1 is already available in 2015, but I consider a couple of things regarding ES classification. First, it has to be aligned with waves of World Bank, and also I like to be aligned with NCA in the long term. And second, it has to be applicable from data perspective. So we kind of review data and then thinking about the conceptual framework and theoretical consistency. In conclusion, we adopted CICS 4.3 is our classification system. So which is the subcategories, and these are the subcategories for each providing service and regulating service and cultural service. We are not going to do all these categories for the accounting. We are going to focus on these highlighted one, because we review the data and also try to identify the most relevant and important ecosystem service in Bangladesh perspective. So these are the ones that we would like to focus on. So these are for the provisioning service, and these for the regulating and maintenance. And this one is a cultural service. And from now on, I'm going to make some blueprints in terms of in forms of tables, how we do the same integrated assessment in theory for nutrition, material, biomass, energy, and water for drinking and non-drinking, and carbon sequestration, and mediation of flows, and cultural services. Applying CICS may look overwhelmed, but I think this one is a good starting point to examine current situation and also good for gap analysis later. So NCA team reviewed what kind of data is available and which ES is relevant and important in Southwest region of Bangladesh. So we are thinking of these platforms sort of from the discussion, so that we can make better strategy out of this from tables. So comments are welcomed. So I think this is for now. Thank you.
Sir, sorry, once again. So you are muted.
Ms. Ann, are you coordinating this study with BBS at this
Yes,
point?
that's why Mr. Rafiq is here, because we've had, based on your discussions and meetings with BBS, just yesterday, or 2 days ago, we met with BBS, Mr. Rafiq, and we discussed a plan of how we're going to work together.
Thank you.
And we really
Great.
want to support BBS because they're leading this already. Yeah.
So thank you. And now next presenter is Dr. Rafiqul Islam, Project Director, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. Mr. Rafiqul Islam, you'll be speaking on strengthening environmental statistics for Bangladesh. And we know that you are the key anchor person in BBS on this issue. So we'd like to hear from you.
Share screen.
Mr. Islam.
Can't hear you. So he has to start before.
Sorry, what? We should inform Mr. Rafiq. Does Mr. Rafiq know that?
No.
So we should inform Mr. Issue, sir? Can you explain what the schedule?
Mr. Rafiq, are you there?
Yes, okay. Is that me?
There is a request from Mr. Zahir Iqbal that he has some pressing engagements and he would like to make his presentation now if it is not too inconvenient for you.
Okay. I already, okay, my line. Already I connected the system.
Okay.
You hear me? Hello?
Yeah, so
Okay,
is that okay? So Mr. Rafiq, is it okay? Because I don't know, maybe you can't hear.
can Mr. Zahir Iqbal
Can go first.
can go before
Okay.
you?
Already I share my slides. You see
I
my
don't think he can
slides?
hear you.
I don't think I've heard.
Can someone just call him and just explain by phone? Anybody?
It's okay,
call him?
let him start.
Let him start?
But Mr. Zahir has.
Mr. Zahir has to leave.
Time.
So go with Mr.
That should have
Zahir.
been told way before.
Can you call Zahir?
Mr. Rafiq, if you allow me, then I would like to present it first, then yours. Because
Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's okay. So I'm sharing my slides. So can you see
Yes,
the
we
slide
can.
presentation?
Yes.
Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, organizer, host, and other, and Dr. Wahiduddin Mahmood sir for giving me the opportunity for presentation. So I would like to concentrate my presentation with 7-8 slides only, and I would like to show you the ecosystem service valuation of forest in Bangladesh, the efforts taken by the forest department and other related stakeholders so far. So my name is Zahir Iqbal. I work in the Bangladesh Forest Department at the head office. This is the land cover map of Bangladesh, and the red box shows the hill forest spanning the Chittagong Hill Tracts, Coxsbazar, Chittagong, and Sylhet region. And this is the Sundarban mangrove, the world's largest mangrove in the southwestern part region of Bangladesh. And this is the central Shal forest situated in Gazipur, Tangail, Madhupur area, and the coastal plantations situated in the coastal areas of Bangladesh. So I can say that we are in the very beginning stage of ecosystem service valuation. We just started some efforts to evaluate our different kinds of ecosystems, and in this field we don't have that much experience or vast experience. So the first effort so far I know that was taken in 2015 or 16 under a USAID project named CALE project, and that was the economic valuation of the cultural storm protection and provisioning ecosystem services of the Sundarban mangrove forest. And these are the key findings of that ecosystem service valuation. They've evaluated the tourism and cultural services, which accounts nearly 53 million US dollar per year. Storm protection services account for 485 million per cyclone per year. And the provisional services from different resources like fish, shrimp, timber, medicinal plants, thatching materials, crab, honey, and beeswax, and was estimated nearly approximately 145 million US dollar per year. The economic value of these Sundarban services evaluated a total of near approximately 684 US dollar annually, which was 0.35% of GDP of 2015. That was the key findings, and the other finding that comes under storm protection, and they evaluated that 1 kilometer of intact mangrove forest can save an average of Bangladeshi taka nearly 2,080 per household during cyclones. So these are the key findings of that economic valuation of cultural storm protection and provisioning services of Sundarban mangrove forest. Though it was the first and one of the best effort, but there were some limitations because it did not consider so many parameters or so many values to be accounted. And as Professor Anamul Haq said that some values are included in here. So they did not account for a standing timber value, the annual increment value of timber. There is a little value of land and water. So while accounting for ecosystem services, we need to evaluate those. Soil and water conservation value, carbon sink and the sequestration of Sundarban, oxygen supply rate, air pollution, temperature regulation, job opportunities, science and education, and spiritual and historical services. These values were not considered on that time because these are the limitations, and it was the first ecosystem valuation of Sundarban. So hopefully, while going further ecosystem valuation, we will consider as much as maximum possible the services provisioning and as well as the other services. And Dr. Anamul Haq was telling about the Bangladesh forest inventory that we have completed in 2019, and the report is in the website. And I would like to share only some key findings of socioeconomic survey under the first ever national forest inventory. We surveyed 6,400 households, and it shows that every household get at least one tree or forest related service for services. And 3/4, though, we have only 15.5% of forest land, and and if we consider the forest cover, there is only 12.7%. So the majority of primary products supplied to the community, to the customer, to the beneficiaries is coming from trees outside forest. That's true and natural. And this survey accounted that the total value of primary tree and forest products collected was 3.11% of 2017-18 fiscal year's national gross domestic product, measured in current price of that time. And it was equivalent of 1.29% of the 2017-18 gross national income, measured in current the then current price. And these are the two major findings, and there are many household level findings or district or administrative level findings which are reported and documented in the in the report, the link is there. We call it BFI, the Bangladesh Forest Inventory, bforest.gov.bd. You can download the whole report, including the biophysical data inventory, socioeconomic survey, and as well as the land cover mapping using satellite images. From the literature review, I found that there are some other other references for ecosystem service valuation around the globe, and among these, the two references given here. I found that the mangrove of Costa Rica accounted US dollar 1.5 billion per year, and mangrove forest of Gulf of Nicoya contributing US dollar 470 million per year. That is higher than the Sundarban, because I think they have considered almost all or maximum parameters or maximum services provided by the mangroves. The reference is here. If you are interested, then you can go through the reference cited. Recently, you know that under the World Bank supported project, we have a project named as Sustainable Forest and Livelihood Project. In short, it is called SHUFOL project. And I know that the project director of this project, Mr. Govinda Rai, is here. So if you give him the opportunity, then we came to know more information from him. But the initiatives under the SHUFOL project, I'm presenting in front of you. So the SHUFOL project has the provision for ecosystem service valuation methodology for 3 forest ecosystems, namely hill forest, shal forest, and mangrove plantation. As SHUFOL forest does not include the Sundarban mangrove, so it was not included in the methodology. Hopefully the SHUFOL project will evaluate the payment of ecosystem services in Sitakundo Ramgor Hill Forest area. For this work, this ecosystem valuation work and payment for ecosystem services work, the project authority circulated the interest in the newspaper and websites, and they have already received few proposals, and these proposals are under the evaluation following our procurement rules of Bangladesh. So we need to wait, or we have to wait few months for the procurement process, and hopefully after that SHUFOL project will be in a position to demonstrate some piloting in the 3 types of forest ecosystem, and as well as PES for Sitakundo Ramgor Hill Forest. And I like to thank everybody to give me the opportunity to present in this workshop and meeting. Thank you very much, sir, and thank you very much to all.
Mr. Johir Iqbal. Mr. Johir Iqbal, can you hear us?
Right. Yes, I'm.
Okay. Amit, yeah, I wanted to know, this is an excellent review of forestry sector's resources. I think apart from that, you have also programs about social forestry, which you have not mentioned here. Social forestry.
Right, sir. Yeah, you rightly pointed that.
Homestead and social, which is so quite important for us as
right, sir. Right. Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, thank you, Professor Wahid Mahmood, for pointing out this very important, and I'm sure it's not going to be an omission in the future for BPS. I'm sure they will recognize social forestry is a well-recognized economic activity in Bangladesh. We can now move on to our next presentation, Mr. Zahir Iqbal. Yeah? Oh, sorry, Rafiqul Islam. Sorry, Mr. Rafiqul Islam, Project Director, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. He has been waiting. Mr. Rafiq, are you there?
Okay, respected sir, you see my presentation?
Okay.
Hello, you hear me?
Okay, please proceed.
Okay, okay.
Floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum, respected chief guest, Dr. Wahiduddin Mahmood sir, and respected chair, Dr. Jaji Sattar, and moderator sir, distinguished guests and participants. I would like to share my some views and concern about environmental statistics in Bangladesh. Already much more discussed about the issues by the respected guests and speakers. But I share my slide, but this first slide is already almost done by the respected speakers and guests. But I overview this slide. Already, you know that Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, at first published Bangladesh disaster related statistics.
Mr. Rafiq.
Sorry.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. I talk. Hello.
Sir, can you hear me? Could you please turn off?
Hear me, please. Hello. Hello. Network is.
So
Hello. You all hear me?
Can you just? Who can
Hello?
talk to the?
না স্যার আপনার কথা ঠিকভাবে বোঝা যাচ্ছে না, একটু ভিডিওটা যদি বন্ধ করেন আপনার এন্ড থেকে।
Could someone just
Can't hear
call
us.
WhatsApp?
Okay.
Let's see if I can take control of this. Camera project, sir. I mean, you
Oh, he figured it out. Okay. that's
Okay,
good.
hear me, please.
Yes,
Hear me?
much better.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay. Internet
Please,
connectivity
thank
is
you.
low.
Yeah.
Yeah, please proceed,
I
sir.
would like to share my second slide. You know that Bangladesh, at first Bangladesh published Bangladesh Disaster Related Statistics 2015 Climate Change and Natural Disasters Perspectives. This book, this is the baseline survey, and established in 2016. Government established Environment, Climate Change and Disaster Statistics cells in BBS as regular basis activities, and also government has formed an interministerial technical committee for producing environment, climate change and disaster statistics, and also BBS with working and DRSF, Disaster Related Statistics Framework, with Fiji, Indonesia, and Philippines, and which is published by UNESCO. And Bangladesh is also prepared and published Bangladesh Environmental Statistics Framework 2016 and 2013. And based on this framework, Bangladesh prepared a compilation of Bangladesh Environmental Statistics 2017 and 2020, and already piloted poverty environment accounts in BBS. And in 2000, and published data of Bangladesh disaster related update data, Bangladesh Disaster Related Statistics BDRS 2021, Climate Change and Natural Disaster Perspective. And you know that already I mentioned Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics prepared and published Bangladesh Environmental Statistics Framework 2016-2020. But in this framework, there are 15 strategic goals. So there are 16 strategic goals, like the environmental statistics scenarios, like some compilation, resource accounts, disaster statistics, compilation of national social accounting metrics, poverty environment nexus, experimental ecosystem accounts, household survey, health and environmental protection, resource management expenditure accounts, disaster reduction expenditure accounts, climate change and natural impacts vulnerability. Out of this 15 strategic goal, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics implements one project. They cover the only out of this 15 strategic goal, as cover 6 strategic goal. In Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, in CTSL,
Sir? Mr. Rafiq?
yes.
Sir, can you please go to slideshow mode and then change the slides? It's stuck right now. আপনার স্লাইড গুলো স্টাক হয়ে আছে, একটু যদি স্লাইড শো মোডে যান আর একটু চেঞ্জ করলে we can then see the screen properly.
আমি তো তাই করছি, বাট এখান থেকে দেখা যাচ্ছে হচ্ছে, বাট কি কারণে বুঝতেছি না।
Presentation mode.
Okay, presentation mode.
এখন আসার কথা একটু ডিলে হচ্ছে।
এখন হয়েছে।
In ECTSL BBS implements in this time 4 activities. One activities is Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics implements strengthening environment, climate change and disaster statistics projects from October 2019 to June 2023 to generate environment, natural resource, biodiversity, climate change and disaster related statistics for institutionalization in Bangladesh. This is fully GOB fund. And second is BBS is implementing CXS and disability disaggregated data ASA DDD for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation program from September 2019 to June 2020 in collaboration with UN Women. And third, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics is also executing geospatial data integration with socioeconomic, demographic, environmental data for developing mobile responsive web application in partnership of CGIS within 2022. And third, coordination and communicates, BBS coordinates and communicates with UN agencies and development partners, as well as civil societies, NGOs, for development of environment statistics in BBS as a institutionalization process. You all know that Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics signed first LOA, letter of agreement, which was signed by BBS and UN Women on 3 September 2019. These 3 activities, preparing the methodological guideline and protocol for data producer and users for integrating gender and social inclusion in environment, climate change and disaster related statistics. And second is pilot survey on sex, age and disability disaggregated data for DRR and CCA for sample disaster vulnerable 3 upazilas in Bangladesh, Satkhira, Kurigram and Teknaf. And thirdly, capacity building for government officials on ASA DDD election for disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation. Already done these projects and Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, already I mentioned the background of the ECDS projects. You all know that is half of the SDGs goals directly please you may share.
Sir, জি আমরা শেয়ার করি কারণ
Okay. It is better, but here
say next আমরা চেঞ্জ করে দিব।
Okay. Here the internet bandwidth is very low.
Yeah, please proceed, sir.
Second slide, please.
Should be second slide.
Next slide, please. You all know that half of the SDGs are directly environmental focus or address the sustainability of natural resources, and over 86 target and 93 indicator concern the environmental sustainability, including at least 1 target in each of the 17 goals. Based on all document, BESF, system of environmental economic accounting, system of environmental ecosystem accounts, disaster related statistics framework, and national required frameworks like perspective plan, 8th 5-year plan. And based on this all framework, the government of Bangladesh implements the strengthening environment, climate change disaster statistics projects. The next slide, please. Projects. Main objectives of this project to generate environment, natural resource, biodiversity and climate change and disaster statistics for industrialization in BBS. The specific objectives, this is 7 objectives, but functional objectives is 6. To conduct the climate change and natural disaster related statistics survey, monitor the impacts of climate change and disaster events, to develop natural resource accounts, ecosystem accounts, align with system of environmental economic accounting under this UN guideline. Already, Dr. Enam sir already mentioned these sites, and to conduct the environmental protection expenditure and waste management survey already conducted by the survey, already conducted the survey in field level in the last month to assess the damage and loss of agricultural production, equipments, machineries, damage, loss and damage issue by natural disasters. To assess the measures, the affected population and area, deaths and missing population and other socio-economic data integrate with GIS integration. To collect the compile secondary data, that means secondary data information, and for compiling Bangladesh environmental statistics already done, and strengthening environmental statistics. Main outputs is 6, but our main sites is already 2 components been done by these projects already finished, and about 9 SDGs indicator measured by these projects, and 11 priority 11 sub indicator from these projects related to this. And next slide, please. Technical progress of environmental statistics BBS in recent times. Compilation of Bangladesh Environmental Statistics 2020 has been prepared and published. Published detailed tables and with key findings of Bangladesh Disaster Statistics, BDRS 2021, Climate Change National Disaster Perspective. Conducted 3 surveys, such as Bangladesh Environmental Protection, Expenditure, Resource and Waste Management 2020 and Municipal Waste Management 2022, and Research and Development Survey 2022 at the field level already conducted in the last month. And BBS in already I mentioned BBS implements in collaboration with our partnership with CGIS, preparation of Bangladesh National Resource, preparation of Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics prepares and national resource accounts. Already I mentioned, and Dr. Enam sir already mentioned this accounts, and forest and ecosystem accounts is in progress, which will be completed by June 2023. And GIS integration work is underway to develop a web application integrated with demographic, socioeconomic, and environmental data and spatial data, which will be completed in December 2022. Published detailed table and with key findings at Bangladesh Disaster Statistics by the Honorable Minister of Planning in 29 March in NCA Auditorium Planning Commission. And next slide, please. Already I mentioned the preparation and integration of GIS data and development of application. The two objectives of the GIS integration of the GIS data of environment, climate change, and natural disaster, development of user-friendly mobile responsive web application using open source softwares. There are 6 thematic areas we identified and we work in it: administrative side, environment and natural resource, climate and climate change, hazards and natural disaster, ecosystem and biodiversity, demographic and ecosystems. For example, flood in the right sides, one map for flood. For example, I present the map. After this, prepare these systems, we published in our websites for all stakeholders. For web application is better than other QGIS, better than QGIS, this web application. Next slide, please. And coordination communication, already I have talked about this. We coordinate UN agencies, development partners, NGOs, and member states. At last, involved with the World Bank Group from 24 March 2020 in these sectors and engagement of academic, civil societies, media, and NGOs. And already in these sectors, we have involved expert and member of the interagency expert group IAEG as a focal point of research for implementing system of environmental accounting, United Nations disaster, UNSD, United Nations Statistics Division, disaster statistics framework of UNISCAP and UNDRR. And we use social media platform for publishing and disseminating all site statistics. Next slides, please. This is the main things, challenge for the environmental policies and strategies. You all know that environmental, that means environment, climate change, disaster statistics faces various problems with accessibility, quality, and timeliness of data for environmental policies and strategies. Difficult to fix a reference year and baseline of environmental statistics. Complex accountability among BBS and other sectoral agencies and organizations. Integration in national planning process. It should be integrated national planning and development process of institutional mechanism for implementation. Requirement for manpower with technical assistance for developing a new survey methodology and capacities. And another big challenge is absence of designated focal points from respective agencies and organizations when arranged a meeting, workshop, and training is also a big challenge for compiling and developing environmental statistics. Next slides, please. And way forwards from the BBS for extending environmental statistics to assess the natural resources for accounting purpose in a system of environmental economic accounting into the national development and planning for implementing the 8th or 9th 5-year plan, perspective plan 2041, SDGs, and other required frameworks. To conduct a rigorous natural resource mapping and exercise in the whole country. It is trying it now to carry out and coordinate a systematic scientific review and environmental economic analysis as soon as possible. To invest in improving natural resource governance for promoting sustainable environmental management. To prepare and facilitate a better understanding of natural resource accounting. That's just example, ecosystem accounts, physical and monetary values, land accounts, forest accounts, energy accounts, material flow accounts, as well as national capital accounts. There is no accounts in Bangladesh in this time, but we developed 2 accounts initially, but we shall going to start this account, ecosystem accounts in April 2012. We shall going to arrange a stakeholder workshop for methodology or assessing these sites, and technical and financial support should be provided by development partners and others for institutionalization of natural resource accounts in BBS platform to prepare and update the national all resource accounts in every year and to establish a national statistical office as a global standard. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for my presentation. And this presentation, next slide, next please. And additionally, I include some additional slides for BDRS survey and SDG indicator. You all may. I requested all of you to overview or their own needs, study this all additional slides. Thank you very much.
Rafiqul Islam, Project Director, Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics, for an excellent presentation. You've informed us that there's been a lot of activity in the BBS in developing environmental statistics, and you're developing, the ground for the system of environmental economic accounting. You've done natural resources accounting, and the accounts will be available soon by 2023. That's very encouraging. Between Mr. Rafiqul Islam and Mr. Zahid Iqbal, I think we've got a lot of information on the state of environmental statistics and the ecosystem service evaluation That's a lot of progress, and hopefully with more technical support, things will improve. We are running a bit late, so we will probably have to shorten the open discussion program, but Yeonju Lee would like to make a very short intervention.
Yeah,
So
my
then-
apologies, sir. I think what will be really important to make clear is that, as you can see, BBS is leading, and there's already a strategic move and a roadmap that they're following. And the objective of our work is going to be supporting them as they engage with FD and other line ministries and in resources, because the plan is there. And the bank's intervention at this point is that we're going to be supporting, particularly as we have the GPS back team, as well as with additional resources, capacity and support there, in line with the government's already roadmap. And secondly, this is going to be incredibly vital as we start putting together a sort of recommendation of a green growth national strategy or national vision and a financing plan that we'll be putting together by the end of the year. And we expect that this input at the moment will be very helpful as we get insight and help from BBS to come up with green growth indicators for Bangladesh. Just want to say the application of it and the total result. So over
Thank
to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Yeonju. Now I think I could open the floor for some discussion. Professor Wahiduddin Mahmood is still waiting for, and we would like to hear his insights and perspectives on this very important subject. Are there any hands raised? I don't see any hands raised yet, but anyone would like to come in?
I believe GIZ and USAID are here, I think, so maybe they can also share as well, but please.
Yeah, I can see. Anyone? Dr. Inamul Haq, would you like to?
Can ask them questions. Can we?
Yes.
Enam is there?
Yes.
Enam?
Dr. Inamul Haq there, please?
I was disconnected for a while. I just got.
You can now hear.
Okay, you're here.
Okay.
Most welcome to.
Can I? I mean, I can be, but there is no chief guest.
Yes,
Just to discuss
The
it.
floor is yours.
Enam,
Yes, yes.
your study is quite separate and parallel to what BBS is doing and what the Korean Institute did experimentally first on the run. I mean, and the presentation from Forest Department, I mean, all these have commonalities in it. You correctly said that, I mean, you were listing things, measuring the services, but then how do you then value it? I mean, in terms of description, you can. I give you one example that water. You mentioned about water transport and river. So we know then that what you mentioned about flow and stock, which is very important. I mean, let's talk about flow. The services provided by the rivers. You were interested in that. So that's why you talked about the navigation, navigability, and the formal, informal boats and other water transport services, which means that it should give us a clue to, if I mean, it's like a project social cost benefit analysis. If a project encroaches on a river body, then what would be the cost of that? Can be measured by the services lost from that, isn't it? That's the
Exactly. That's
problem is, of course, that I cite this example because for Bangladesh, for different countries, different resources are more important. For Bangladesh, I think encroaching of rivers, illegal encroaching of rivers is one of the top problem of environmental sustainability and the ecosystem, everything. Bangladesh is a land of rivers. So this is and how do you, one problem is again that a data problem, like black economy, where you don't get any real data to be integrated to GDP. There is something parallel to that even in illegal occupation of the rivers. BBS data will not, or official data cannot show illegal. And I give you one example. The other day I was looking at Turag River. Now government, recently our court system has said that to protect it is a desperate attempt, that rivers are a living entity, which is the extreme measure one can take to protect rivers. Now, I was looking at one of the river, which is Amader Beriband Pasher, Turag River.
Turag.
There is it's true that Bangladesh's rivers are changing beds, so that continuously you have to measure, and according to the law, you have to estimate the river bed, the actual legal river side, which must not be uncrossed. The thing is that it's not only naturally shifting, but also as soon as there is some grabbing, after that, even officially, the banks are redefined. You go to the Turag River, you see that now there are pillars. I asked the environmentalist, I am a part of the environmental, BAPA, environmental. And they said that these are not the original pillars. These pillars are concocted pillars to legalize the politically supported occupation of the lands. Even I saw that there was some encroachment even beyond this new pillars.
Yes.
The question is, first of all, how you translate river services into some parts of the rivers are encroached and lost, because river system is this big system which is interrelated. And if something is encroached somewhere, even if we knew that all the data were there, to translate general average river services environment into a particular encroachment in certain areas, isn't it going to be, I mean, there is more hydrological, scientific, and data from river experts. Just one example of how complicated it is to translate natural resources into policy-based cost benefit. Just for your thought, I mean, this one example.
So just to give you an idea, I see, so if you look into the Korean example, they did a lot of studies in order to find, for example, losing a river in Turag versus losing Buriganga, the impact are not same. So when we say the impact, unit values for each of the services, we have, in our cases, we have tested about 80+ services among the experts who are forestry and river researchers, and wanted to see what are the services they see the most valuable for the country. So this list I have given is the selected list, what they think are the most valuable. So when I say the price of a river or cost of losing the river, it means all the services are lost. So the technical valuation requires that we get unit value of these services, and that requires, that's what the whole 10 years research was required, for them to get values after values. What we did in our case, we created a ranking so that even if we start valuing, we start from the top and go to the bottom as much as we can, so that when I say the river is lost, it's not just the transportation lost, it's lost with everything. And many of these river systems, particularly Turag, for example, is linked to the Bawal National Park. So Bawal National Park is lost, Turag will be lost because the river system is starting from the Bawal National Park. So that is why forest is also linked with it. So we can see that if the forest is lost, part of the river system will be lost because flowing of the river system is linked to the forest. And a lot of times, for example, selected afforestation revive a river. So there are different strategies. So normally when we look into the values, we look at each of these different aspects of services, which are regulated services. The most difficult one is the regulated services, regulating services. Provisional services are easier because at least it is already there. We know the values. So we look into this and then we say, yes, per unit, if there is a kilometer of river is lost, here is the value of the loss. And that's how we start bringing them into the national accounts. And there are three, as I said, the four services, which is very difficult, habitat services, which is, for example, I was doing a study with the Ministry of Water Resources on Halda River. And in Halda River, we looked into the river valuation system. Dr. Asaduzaman was part of it. And we finally said all the service valuation that people have done are all underestimation and not properly methodically done. The result was they found out a very low value of the Halda River because they did not use the right valuation method. So I think it is very important that we look into the valuation approaches first and then look at the value. Otherwise, the value will look too small. And in that case, the whole objective of bringing them into the national account, that we protect them because it creates value, that objectivity is lost. Somebody will come up with the alternative and say, look, we can fill up the river and get better value. So I think the valuation study should be done properly. Otherwise, some of the values that we will get is so low, and I've seen certain studies, they were not methodically correct. And that is where the problem starts. And
Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Enamul Haq. Excellent insights and perspective from Professor Wahiduddin Mahmood, as always, and then an excellent response and clarification with details from Dr. Enamul Haq.
May I ask a quick question?
You have a hand raised?
And please, for those of you in the chat boxes, please put your questions in and we'll call on you or raise your hand in the system so we can come back to your questions and comments. And I see some raised hands, which is good. Yeah, I see one. So I'm gonna just do really quick. So I wanted to build on Dr. Wahid and Enamul Haq's comments. You've addressed the technical part and the economic part, but I'm very intrigued by the comment you made because this is about governance. At the end of the day, the political governance is a real matter. And I think going forward, including future infrastructure, whether you're going to build new cities, where, these are all political decisions. And one of the ways that I've seen countries overcome economic disparity is to remove politics from the national economic goals. And once we do that, if you decouple, then the prosperity is much easier to achieve because you don't have as much political interference. So I'm going to ask Dr. An, are you still online? I don't know if Dr. An is. So Dr. Han has been working in this sector for the last 30 years. And I will tell you that Korea has gone through the same political, interference because it's a smaller country than yours with a much smaller population. So everybody knows each other. So Dr. An, I was wondering, can you share any?
Is Dr. An there?
Dr. An is here. Can you share any example or case study that talks about how Korea's, you were able to decouple the political decision-making and the, if you will, gerrymandering in Korea when this land aspect started? When we talk about informal or illegal activity. Dr. An is muted. So are you able to speak?
Please unmute Dr. An.
I think she's unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there we
I
are.
think if I understand your question correctly, I think this is very difficult questions because the Dr. Enamul said that the valuation study can be very tricky sometimes in terms of what kind of methodology they used because we don't go through the market. So there is a lot of issues in terms of accuracy of numbers they produce and in terms of methodology they adopted. And also sometimes the numbers are used politically by political agenda.
Yeah.
But it takes time basically. So some institution or some governance has to stick with the long-term project. I think the BBS project could be a good candidate to just accumulate the data in consistent way and also sort of make objective data free from other pressure from other causes or whatever reasons. So that you have to be really solid and consistent in terms of a data collection and also in the reviewing the valuation studies and try to make up, try to drive theoretically and as much correct as possible to produce unit values for certain items. So it takes a time, but and also you have to go through all these kind of political interventions, but somehow you have to be I don't know how to say, you have to be very solid in terms of through the project, and some sort of research team has to go on, I think.
Right, thank you. Thank you. While you're there, Dr. An, I had a question to you from your presentation. May I, if I may? You were talking about carbon stocks and flows. Now, you know that our goal is to, reduce emissions. We've already, Bangladesh, as a government of Bangladesh has already made some commitments to the international community. The latest nationally determined commitments 2021 has been announced, and we expect to reduce emissions by unconditional 6.7%. And if there's sufficient assistance coming, then we can do it even something like reduction of 15%. Now, I wonder if you're aware, our maximum emissions are coming from our power generation using fossil fuel. 97% of our power generation uses fossil fuel. Now, the carbon content in fossil fuels, as you know, is huge. And we are talking about decarbonization of the economy and eventually reaching net zero emissions. All of these things are there. So I think I saw in your presentation, you talked about you're taking stock of the carbon, and there's this issue of stock and flow. So, power generation, for instance, is that a case of flow of carbon? And what are the stocks then? If you could explain to us who are actually, just laypersons in this particular subject.
Thank you for your questions. Based on my presentation, I mean by stock and flow is a simple meaning, such that like flow is the amount of carbon you sequestered over a certain period of time, which could be 1 year or 2 years, and stock is the accumulated amount of carbon you stocked in the given time of point.
Okay. So
our calculation is based on basically depends on the land cover, a change in land cover.
Okay, I think I get it. So basically, when you're talking of stocks, you mean all the accumulated from the past, the carbon.
Exactly. Yeah.
Generated into the atmosphere. Okay, all right. Got it. Okay, thank you. Any more?
Mr. Rakib from Aranoyo.
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Mr. Rakib, yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I have a few points for discussion. As you know, Aranok Foundation is working for conservation of forests and biodiversity. So we previously worked with FAO and Bangladesh Forest Department for contribution in National Forest Inventory and Socio-Economic Survey. So I'm very glad to be in this webinar, and all the presentation, including the experience of Korea and Bangladesh, is very noteworthy. And we are happy that Bangladesh is going to working for this national natural capital accounting. But I have a fear from the presentation of BBS that they are going for natural resource accounting, and I expect that they should invite all the competent counterparts in this procedure, in finalizing the procedure. Otherwise, there could be a a framework developed which is not actually endorsed by everybody. And in the past, what Johir Iqbal was presenting, the evaluation of ecosystem services of Sundarban, it was not really appreciated by the many other authorities in Bangladesh and many other experts in Bangladesh. Same thing happened in Halda Valley, mentioned by Dr. Anam. So I was happy that many things are raised, and also one important point was raised by Dr. Wahiduddin Mahmood. There is the encroachment of lands. That is also true for forest, as also mentioned by Enamul Haq, because in forest lands are in forest lands are converted into other land uses, which is very important for ecosystem service valuation. But most of the time these are ignored. As mentioned by Enam, that Halda Valley people said their perception, but which is very underestimated. So in that case, if we just think about the services, what ecosystem services, for example, I am working with forestry. So forest is providing a lot of ecosystem services, as mentioned in the Enamul Haq's presentation. But for example, habitat is a very unique kind of services that forest is providing, but which has very national and international significance. So the valuation of these things should be very, I think, done with very cautiously. And one important thing was mentioned by Dr. Anam, there is the quantification of value. What value we are putting for the products and services for coming out of this ecosystem services. For example, he said that Forest Department lot of data from National Forest Service Forest Inventory, but in my opinion, this data is generated only in around tangible resources for forest products. But some other tangible resources, for example, bamboo, what valuation we are putting for this bamboo extracted from this forest? I think the government value for bamboo is very small, but its contribution in the economy is larger than the value they are counting. So these things has to be accounted. And another important thing I want to mention that before in Bangladesh, in my experience with other projects, I saw that there is a lot of data deficiency in Bangladeshi environment. Most of the national institutions are collecting data, but they don't have any appropriate database management system or standardization. So when we are going for national accounting of ecosystem services, we should put emphasis on data generation, how we are standardizing this data collection, and what are the tools and methodologies we are adopting. And again, once again, government institutions and all other institutions, Bangladesh is kind of shy in about exchange of data and other things. So in all these things should be properly taken care of. Otherwise, this national accounting undervalued. Yes.
Thank you. Points well taken. You've pointed out this idea of deforestation and how you account for it, and the issue of unit value. How do you set unit value? These are very critical points. Well discussed, and thank you for your intervention. I think it's now time for us to move to Professor.
Okay.
To invite Professor Wahiduddin Mahmood for his valuable insights and perspectives on
thank you.
this complex.
Thank you, Jaydeep bhai. I'm not an environmental economist, but the way I can link with this topic is that I am by age older than all of you. Most of you, Jaydeep bhai is.
Except
in the 70s, in the 60s, when I was a student, the social cost benefit analysis methodology was introduced by Little Millies once, and then Partha Gupta, who is an environmental economist. You have worked with him.
Yes.
And the UNIDO group, Amartya Sen and Partha Gupta, one side. I mean, the methodologies were developed then. So from that methodology, you already know that in a social cost benefit analysis, we need to take account of, we don't do always, take account of all the, among the cost, we have to take account of all the environmental cost as well. Now, that's in principle we need to, but we know from experience that it's extremely difficult, and there are so many interrelated aspects of it that even scientifically, first of all, it's a matter of science to quantify things, which are the unit values mentioned here, and that which we call shadow prices are not the market prices, and sometimes there are no prices at all because these are not marketed. And this is from it was a breakthrough, social cost benefit analysis. For the first time, economists refuted the criticism against them by Oscar Wilde that we know the price of everything and value of nothing. So that was the start of the. But then it has become much more important now because sustainability and environmental issues has become much more important. Previously in cost benefit analysis, we didn't give that much of attention to it because these are not in the agenda. We were thinking more of the externalities, negative and positive, and distributional aspects, who gets what, that sort of thing did get priority. I should mention that it's good that we have a presentation from and we can learn from South Korea, because Bangladesh and South Korea have many things in common. Actually, you mentioned that South Korea is smaller than us in terms of population, but Bangladesh is a unique example, unique case. Why the environmental issues are so important for development policy making, which is that take one data that land area in Bangladesh, which is not already in use for agriculture, habitation and industrialization and urbanization, the proportion of unutilized land in the total land area in relation to land already used is the lowest among all countries in the world. But the nearest to that is South Korea.
It's true,
but far ahead, far better advantage. But Bangladesh is by far the disadvantage, which means that when you do anything of economic development, whether setting up of any power plant, setting up of any industrial plant, it will inevitably encroach some of your environmental resources, which can be agricultural land, which can be protected forest, which can be hills. These are all resources. There is no wasteland.
No.
That's the extreme. That's why Bangladesh is extreme, and that makes Bangladesh unique. Another respect is that Bangladesh, in the global the debate of emissions of harmful gases for in mitigation. Bangladesh doesn't have much responsibility because it does not is not responsible for greenhouse emission. The global warming, but still, Bangladesh should commit to it, and Bangladesh has committed to it in the recent Glasgow conference. Unlike China and India, Bangladesh doesn't hesitate. It's a remarkable.
It is remarkable.
Remarkable policy that Bangladesh committed to the reduction of emission of carbon and shift from coal waste to other power waste thing. It's a remarkable thing.
It is.
For Bangladesh, it's not a question of demonstrating that you said that Bangladesh can do many things which other countries cannot. It's not only that Bangladesh being on the receiving side commit to reducing global emission, unlike China and India.
Yep.
But also that it's also needed for Bangladesh, as I said, because you don't get anywhere in Bangladesh where you can have a power plant with bad emissions, which does not affect the habitation around.
Or the
We don't
people's
have-
health.
yeah.
Yes, we do not have.
Yeah, you don't have any. Anywhere. That's why environmentalists will oppose any proposal of plant or industrial thing. But it's a question of trade-off. That's why this accounting of environmental costs is so important for Bangladesh's development strategy. Now, as I said, Bangladesh is, I mean, in terms of methodology, I mean, this is a methodology we are applying.
Correct.
I mean, and it requires a lot of ingenuity to translate these whatever units or actual physical quantities of benefits or costs
Unit
into
values.
Huh?
Unit values.
unit values into valuations. There, I mean, in the Korean study, they have used all the things which we are aware of. Either there is a market price, or if there is no market price, willingness to pay.
Mhm.
How much you would pay if it were not there, if Sundarban's beauty were not there, how much you'll pay to retain that beauty, that sort of thing. Replacement cost, how much if the groundwater is lost, and how much is the cost for harnessing surface water. Then restoration cost, avoided cost, some of the costs which you could avoid, value transfer. So many the methodologies are there. The question here is that first of all, if you do this sort of exercises for different sectors, different resources, then our cost benefit analysis for particular sectors and projects will improve, because we can at once say that if there is a plant to be, if there is a project near Sundarban, what would be cost of environmental cost, because we already know from this accounting what is the annual value of flow of services from that. So that's one thing. But if apart from helping project analysis, there are interconnectedness, as was discussed in all these environmental resources. Water resources are connected with forest resources, connected with soil fertility, underground water, health issue, everything are connected. So if you do this accounting, resource accounting in all the sectors, then in contrast to project analysis, where you get guidance for particular project and particular sectors, you can see the interconnectedness, and you can shift from project social cost benefit of project evaluation to a national strategy, which you are talking about, of environment smart or green or whatever it is. I'm not used to this terminology, these are new things, whatever you call it, but environment friendly, sustainable. I would call it environmentally sustainable growth strategy.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, see the benefit of your exercise of, as I said, for any particular project, we should in any case do cost benefit analysis, where we should take into account, we don't, but we should take into account environmental cost. Our particular system, now the existing system is there is an environmental ministry or environmental directorate which say yes or no, which is nothing. It doesn't go into the project evaluation at all.
Correct.
So yes or no doesn't mean anything. The environmental cost and benefit should go into the actual cost benefit analysis of a power project or anything which is encroaches on any environmental resources. So there is the administrative shift, first administrative shift we need, that the environmental ministry or directorate, if they are at all to be involved, if there is a serious, self-evident thing like encroaching a river, then of course environmental ministry should intervene because no cost benefit analysis is needed to justify that the rivers should be protected. But if there is a nuanced cost analysis of cost like building something near Sundarban, then yes or no will not help, and it will be politically influenced. But what we need is to inbuild those cost and benefit into. Now, as I said, different countries have different priorities in terms of what should be protected, what are the resources which should be taken care of. One of the things which didn't come into our discussion, but again, because it's very difficult, these are very difficult to quantify, let alone monetize in value. But it's like that. GDP is accused of not adequately taking into account things which cannot be marketed or can be measured in value. Just like that, your natural resource accounting may be accused of not taking into account those things which are not only not easy to value in monetarily, but also which are not scientifically that much quantified and known. One example is, which is not nowhere I have seen here, but Enam may have, even Enam has missed that, which is land fertility.
Oh yeah.
And the use of chemical pesticides and chemical fertilizers.
As an externality, it's considered under the pollution.
It is
because you are eutrophication and overuse of pesticides and fertilizer.
Yeah, again,
creates the
there
externality.
are interrelated issues.
Correct, yeah.
But the fact is that
Yeah.
if you continue to the cost, if you continue to use chemical fertilizer, then particularly in a way which are not very scientifically determined, then your requirement of use of fertilizer increases even more and more and more and more over time. The contrast to that is a system which is China has shifted from chemical fertilizer to bio fertilizer. In pesticides, also from chemical to other natural sorts of things.
It was one of the world's largest user.
The other day, FAO Director General was here. I was sitting next to him in lunch, and we were discussing that. And he was saying that we have China has successfully shifted away. Now, these are the things which in this our proposed accounting will be very difficult because we don't know exactly the parameters. But what I'm saying is that just because we cannot measure and doesn't understand the science of it, we should not. We shouldn't be accused in our new accounting that we ignore certain things which we cannot measure. Therefore, we undermine them. So we should be aware of that. The second thing we should be aware, second, not many other things, but other is that in many of these calculations, there are value judgments, which we should specifically mention and where we should not hide them. In many of the calculations of even cost benefit analysis, there's a question of discounting and what sort of discount rates we should use. And in our previously, when we were students, we used to say 30 years is our horizon, following Maynard Keynes, that in the long run we shall be all dead. So no cost beyond 30 years discounted at a 5%, even at 5% becomes zero now. But environmental, the greenhouse thing, environmental thing has changed all that. And we may discount our lifetimes 30 years ahead for our generation, but what right we have, moral right we have to discount the future generation's cost. Now, these are the value judgments which implicitly, many of these value judgments and many of the trade-offs, short-term and long-term trade-offs, are implicit in whatever accounting you do. So we may not solve all this, but we should be explicit about it. Otherwise, we'll be accused of hiding things because common people will not understand all these intricacies.
So
They
clear
will-
assumptions.
They will get only the end product of don't do this, don't do that.
Yeah.
And we
Then
can
they'll get
advise
upset.
government. Even government will not understand these nuanced methodologies. But we should, to be fair, we should be explicit and tell people that there are certain things which are already implicit here.
I see.
And last of all, there are, as I said, trade-offs, and the Korean presentation by Dr. Han mentioned that, say, cost of emissions. In Dhaka, the cost of the emissions is done, half of emissions is done by the traditional, the traditional brick kiln.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we know that there are better technologies which are costly. That's why there is trade-off.
Yeah, that's a trade-off,
Yeah.
correct, yeah.
But how do we, starting from project cost benefit of a project which will introduce better technology for clean brick kiln, to a bigger question of clean air and reducing emissions. Dr. An talked about cost of emissions or the benefit of reducing emissions in terms of health costs.
Yeah.
Now you see there are, you have to choose, there are so many factors here. You can talk about pollution, even water pollution and all pollutions, which are environmental resources. Pollutions creating morbidity and mortality. And Bangladesh is one of the countries where midlife mortality is increasing very fastly, ultimately may undermine our average longevity gains, which Bangladesh is unique in terms of reducing child mortality, which we could do by low-cost solutions of diarrhea prevention and other things. But we are ignoring that the midlife mortality due to polluted, food adulteration and polluted is increasing. Now here the cost estimates, I'm giving some random examples. One can talk about cost estimates in terms of what are the elements. The cost of medical cost, then cost of loss of life, which cannot be measured, GDP is at best a measure of, which is not again a perfect measure of material output and services.
And it's
Nobody is claiming GDP to be, it's the governments which claim GDP to be more than what this. Economists don't claim more than that.
No.
These type of exercises, why should we have to dovetail it with GDP? There is no need. You can survive, but GDP in any case, to have a good GDP base, we are not that strong. I mean, most developing countries are deficient in estimating the things. But having an accounting system like that can be parallel, can be a supplement, can be a system which surrounds GDP. But
Very good point.
even if you want to put in something into that GDP, it don't do any service to actual protecting the reverse, because GDP again is not something people will understand. And complicating GDP will even make it less understandable to general people. But general people know how to, that pollution should be reduced. Sundarban should be protected. And if the accounting system is there, it could show. If that we had a system of time series, long time series, we could easily see that the size of Sundarban 50 years back was double than what it is now. And even in last 10 years, Bangladesh's forest cover has declined quite a lot. So these are things your accounting should make us aware of.
Thank you, Professor Wahid Mahmood. Thank you so much for all your very in-depth, very incisive, very deep analysis of the complex issue that has been discussed today. It was a very rich discussion, very rich presentations. And I think the final word from Professor Mahmood says, well, if you let not the perfection be the enemy of the possible. So let's do what is possible. But then there's the other point that Professor Mahmood makes, which is that is it necessary to integrate this system of capital, natural capital accounting? Is it necessary to integrate it with GDP, which has faced so many critiques for years to come? But of course, that decision would have to lie with the global system, the global governance system that we have, the UN system, where national income accounting.
SNA is there, so we can't ourselves.
So if there is a decision at the global forum that
standard national
it will become part of standard national accounting, then I guess we all have to just live with that and move towards as perfect as we can, or as as definite as we can on the valuation of these very complex environmental systems. So environmental, system of environmental economic accounting is fine, but we'll have to see whether it's going to be integrated with the national system of national accounts at the global forum, and then we'll act accordingly.
I will now, there is no free lunch. I mean, you are sitting here from, so I'll do some advertising of my book.
Thank you.
There's a book.
No, this is not irrelevant, because some of the things we discussed is there in a very small book of mine, thin book, but it outlines some of the problems that, with GDP, with and market prices and values and things. So where is the photographer?
Where's the photographer?
Okay, that's you will do.
And nowadays everybody is photographer.
We're all photographers.
We can also request the participants to open their camera.
Yeah, if you can open your camera.
So may I request all participants
Who are still here, if they
to
could open the
please open their
camera.
cameras?
No, one.
Open your
one-
video mode.
Thank
please.
you for being here. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
As you can see,
Oh, I
Mimi,
think I-
there's
I missed that
great
part.
energy here.
yeah, I missed that part. Thank you all,
Thank
all
you,
the
Mr.
panelists,
Rafi.
all the distinguished panelists and all the participants
Thank
for your
you.
patience and understanding.
That's great. We have to
Thank
get a
you.
photo of that. I'm gonna go. get it.
Okay, this is,
Shobina?
this is a book,
Bushra.
one of my recent books, very recent indeed. It's called Markets, Morals and Development,
Yeah.
Rethinking Economics from a Developing Country Perspective.
Right.
I write here to the esteemed researchers at the Policy Research Institute.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
With much appreciation and deep regards.
I
Yeah.
ordered the book
Sure.
already. I don't know if it just come to the
Take a
library.
photo.
Come here. Sam.
Please,
Can-
please.
can-
All right,
please,
GA,
please,
Bushra,
yeah,
come
we
on.
can.
Elizabeth,
But you're most welcome. If you
Yeah,
put
all of us,
Yeah.
please.
yeah, come on,
Let's-
everybody.
Let's
At least
surround.
we- Yeah, at least we have a,
Have a nice
Hey,
poster
Hassan,
back
wanted to come here.
yeah.
here.
Some come here. Why don't some come here? Come,
Lopsided.
come here, come.
Ladies on.
Come here, come on this side.
I'll move, I'll
you
move,
get
I'll move.
this
Come here, stand here.
Okay, there
Stand
we
here,
go.
stand here.
Good, good.
I wish you guys were here standing.
Great.
Yeah.
अच्छा, ना, okay. ना, Jerry भाई, actually.
Okay,
Come here.
we'll get the
Yeah,
photos.
Okay,
You should be seen.
We'll Photoshop you in. Thank you.
okay.
Okay,
Jerry भाई?
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then can you take a
Thank
photo of the screen so we can put them in here?
What the screen?
Yeah,
Just take a photo of the screen.
No, no. So, no.
Everybody say cheese. Thank you very much. I
Thank
know it was a
you.
real technical session, but it was.
Okay,
you.
okay, that's
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you, right?
Yeah.
Very much. We've already ordered Amitab's.
Tak-
Tak ini.
With that, we're going to conclude the session today.
Because.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll
no,
be
I
sharing
got the
minutes and a
morals and
participant
whatever.
list. And all the presentations
Some briefing.
available will be shared as well. And thank you, BBS, for your leadership. We are right behind you all the way, working with the Forest Department and everyone. So thank you very much, sir.
Great.
Thank you, Dr. An.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Dr. Shahidul Islam, fresh from China,